Hello, hola, and buenas, buenas. Welcome back to La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast made with love. Tonight, it's a good one. We'll be joined by the legendary voice of the Galaxy, Joe Tutino. He'll help us bring you our match reaction for the LA Galaxy 0-0 home draw against Panama Sporting San Miguelito in the Concacaf Champions Cup, a result that takes them through to the round of 16 in the competition on away goals after Joseph Paintsil's strike in the first leg. We'll look at how the Galaxy just about squeaked through, if it was the right approach. Talk to Joe about what he's seen out of the team thus far this season and what the positives are that Galaxy fans can take away from the first three matches. We'll also bring you a mini match preview for the Galaxy's upcoming home match this weekend against Charlotte. Plus, an LA Galaxy Academy product is off to Italy. All of that and more coming up on tonight's episode of La Cuna Galaxiana. DJ, spin that track. G's up!
Yeah, let's get it started with a new year, new me. Cuna Galaxiana still reporting on the news feed, yeah. And you know who it be, the 6 stars on the jersey, putting work in the league. Word on the street, we rip teams immaculately. We see the players come and go, but I'm forever a G. And you can catch me yelling tactics on the field when I leave. Get it together like I'm Vanny when I'm giving a speech. Back to the pitch, score goals, dribbling tricks. I heard a transfer window rumor, let me see who it is. I got statistics on the player, puzzle pieces that fit. Con este show que es tan bilingüe que tu papi lo ve. Rápido pues, hablando de este club otra vez. En las buenas y en las malas, we got love for the crest, love for LA. Let's get it started, light up the stage. Every week on Monday night I'm tuning into the place. Yeah, you know what it is. It's La Cuna Galaxiana, 4th season, Rabananda. And my name, ya te lo sabes.
Welcome back to La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast made with love. Y'all know what it is. I'm one of your co-hosts, as usual, Rob Hello, and you can find my written work at the Sporting Tribune. Yes, I write things as well. Go check out the words. And you can always find me online at El Escudero de LA. And you know what it is as well. I'm here, so my co-host is here, El Papá de Natita, El Yerno Guapo, and a guy who I think is just generally more optimistic right now than I am. Papá, Anandita Kirana, ¿cómo te sientes?
I don't know about optimistic, but I'm more even keel, I guess. Like I try not to get like too high or too low. Papa, like, you know me in this, like I've been supporting this Arsenal. I've been supporting this Arsenal title run for the past 5 years. If there's one thing I've learned following a title run or a title challenge, it's never get too high or never get too low. Always stay even keel. And that's why, like, I always just try to keep it neutral. Like I don't overreact to 2 or 3 games. I don't overreact to a play. I just try to keep it. I try to keep it sort of centered but still objective. Like I'm gonna react to what I see in the heat of the moment. Will I get upset about it? 100%. Like we were texting during the game. Like there was things that we were both not happy with, like you in the press box, me at home in the comforts of my own couch. But yeah, like we'll get into it. I think there's a lot of, I've seen Galaxy Twitter and Meltdown in the last 24 hours or so. and it's par for the course, but we can get into it. And the way that we usually get into it are these one-word match reactions. So yeah. You want to kick things off first, since I'm supposedly the optimistic one here on this show.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think it's some variation of what I told you earlier, where it was kind of like, boredom turned into irritability or frustration or something like that, and then frustration. I don't even know what I said to you earlier, but I went through a range of emotions where I was just like, what am I watching? And then like I just started getting irritable, and like, I mean, I get it. Like when people are out there and they're upset, like I get like that they're like stymied for answers. I understand. So, I think I'm just going to say that, just a range of emotions. I'm just going to give you a phrase.
Range of emotions, huh?
Not really any positive emotions, but
No.
a range of emotions.
Yeah, I forgot what you got to pull it up, man. It was good. It was like I don't know what words you used, but it was good. You got to pull that up for me. You got to pull that up for me. So
All right,
but pull that up as I'm giving you mine. But yeah, man,
It was boredness turned into irritability, turned into disgust.
Fair. That was good. That was class. Yeah, so mine is, again, I'm not overly optimistic, obviously, about this, but I'm conflicted. That's my one word reaction. I'm conflicted because, and I'll tell you why. Like, you look at that match at face value. You have a team, as Sophie said just a moment ago. I was tuning into them. She said they were not parking the bus; they were parking the spaceship. Right? you have a team that is fully committed defensively in a 5-4-1 formation. That's a super defensive formation that's bound to hit you on the counter. And we had to break down a little block, which, by the way, the LA Galaxy haven't shown a propensity to do that. So that's let's put that issue aside for a second. The Galaxy needed what they needed to do. They advanced, not in the best way, because even during the match, I was texting you like very little movement, stagnant. It's Papa, like, are you asleep over there? Are you asleep in the press box? Like, this is a boring match. This is a drag, right? And so that's why I'm conflicted. It's like the performance wasn't there, but the job was done. And then I think about, like, and I texted you this morning. I thought about Charlie Boehm, who we had on recently, and I thought about his comment about the risk and reward spectrum that the Greg Vanney in particular is going to operate on this year. And clearly he operated on the less risk part of that spectrum, right? For this match, because
optics be damned. I'm going to get the result.
Think about what the optics would be if the G's didn't advance, if they pipped us on the counter, if Armando Cooper or whoever that was towards the end of the game, that shot went in the back of the net. This is a totally different conversation. Yeah. There would be like 95% Vanney out instead of maybe 75% or whatever I'm seeing, at least per Galaxy Twitter, right? So
Jesus, they're up in arms right now.
Well, the optics would have looked bad. So that's why I'm conflicted. It's like we did know what we needed to do. And it's like my big question, and we might explore this with Joe when we have him on, is like my big question is this a representation of what this Galaxy team will be this year? Or are we just looking at the context of the situation in this 90 minutes? And that you won't even be able to answer until like the next 5 or 10 games, because we need a track record. We need like a body of evidence to answer that question. So again, this is why I'm conflicted. I don't know.
Yeah, it's only 3 games, but you know there is a body of work before that. We're gonna get into it all. Guys, stick with us. Joe Tutino will be joining us here pretty soon. If you're in chat, thank you so much for hanging out, showing us some love. We do appreciate that. If you are one of our subscribers, thank you so much for being so. We just ask that you put someone on. I actually want to know, if you're in chat, let us know who put you onto the podcast, because we want to show them some love, because that's definitely somebody that loves you, trying to give you our labor of love to the Galaxy community. So hop into chat, let us know who put you on. Super chats are now available. If you need something to get off your chest, if you got a question for Joe, hit up those super chats. We'll go ahead and get to those. If you're on X and Instagram, go ahead and hit up that YouTube subscribe as well. And Ananda, I think we'll just get into some news bits and bobs before we get to Joe.
Let's get it.
Well, Tommy Burgert's reporting that Christian Ramirez is close to signing with Austin FC. If that has not come to pass already, we'll keep you abreast of that situation as it develops and give you the news when it becomes official. There is a LA Galaxy Academy product that is on his way to Italy. Ryan Hartley signed with Como. The Galaxy announced that deal today. He leaves after spending 6 seasons with the Galaxy Academy, and now he's joining Parma, or rather, excuse me, not Como, Parma. During his time with the Galaxy Academy, he was a starter on 2 MLS Next championship winning teams, first with the U17s and then with the U18s. So congratulations to Ryan and getting his move to Italy. Guys, of course, we're going to talk about all the Champions League stuff, but yes, by product of the Galaxy advancing, they will play Mount Pleasant of Jamaica in the round of 16. The first leg will be at the Digs on Wednesday, March 11th, with the second leg the week after. And Mount Pleasant is the top-ranked club in the Caribbean. Should the Galaxy advance, they will meet the winner of San Diego versus Toluca the week of April 7th to the 16th. We'll give you more information about that as that becomes available as well. Guys, this is, again, a good moment to remind you, if you haven't done so, subscribe to this podcast, because then you're going to know when we have amazing guests on, like this next gentleman. I mean, I've said it a bunch of times. He's one of the reasons I'm even in this chair. Please help me now. Welcome back to Lacuna Galaxiana, a voice, really a man that has brought each of us boundless moments of joy and has been the soundtrack to pretty much every success that the LA Galaxy has experienced. The legendary voice of your LA Galaxy, Joe Tutino. Thanks for being here with us again, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
Doing lovely.
Doing well.
So nice to see you again. Of course, you know, we cross paths at the Digs all the time, but you know, it's always you know, when we're in game mode and everybody's working and stuff like that. So it's nice to just be here and relaxing and hanging out. And first off, happy birthday to you.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody. That's really nice. I made it to another year. How about that?
Well, I'm sure Galaxy fans will tell you we hope you are eternal. I mean, you again, man, you've been such a big part of all our lives. Of course, you spent your birthday at the Digs, where we wish the lads hadn't been able to give you a proper birthday win, but they did get through.
Right.
And honestly, that was kind of the priority Anand and I were talking about. But you know, we did talk about as well that it was kind of an uninspiring performance, but job done. For you, did it feel like control or more like survival mode?
I think it was control. I think honestly, I was thinking about it today. You look at it and you got to separate the situation. They needed to get it to the round of 16. They did that. They got that done. They had the road goal in a difficult 7,000-mile trip, 14,000-mile round trip to start the season. They got the road goal. They got home. They had to start 3 days, 3 days later against New York City. They opened the season to a draw, and you know, minute 25, they get their first goal of the season. You're off and running. You hope they get another. It didn't happen, but they, you know, unfortunately dropped 2 points at home. But then they finished things off the other night, last night, right? And took care of business there. And so I look at it and say, it's not pretty right now, but it's productive at this point. And so that's what I think going forward to Saturday, which will be another big test against Charlotte. And they'll be a bit fatigued, I imagine, because I don't think they wanted to go with the full roster for the entire 90 minutes last night, but that's what it required. So, you know, we'll see how that looks on Saturday.
Did the team being able to get that result and you know, get the passage through to the next round, albeit in kind of like a not pretty way, tell you more about the team finding a way to get the job done, more than the fact, you know, that it was a dominant win?
Well, I think I look at it and say this is the early part of the season, and they're still trying to find their way. They have some new players that are trying to fit in, and they're trying to find a proper place for, let's say, João Klaus, and how to work him through that front line, and how is he going to lead the line, or somebody else going to be leading that for the Galaxy? I imagine he's going to lead the line, and they're going to find a way, a comfort zone to make that work. From what I've seen in preseason and through these games, I think they're still trying to find their way mostly in the midfield. And right now, it's a very defensive-minded midfield, a midfield that doesn't have, let's say, the confidence or the courage to go forward and beat the guy in front of them at the moment. And I think it's going to come with more reps. Hopefully this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you know, this yesterday was your birthday game. Saturday will be Ananda's birthday game. So hopefully they pick up a
Happy
W.
birthday.
Thank you. It's an honor to share the birthday on the same week. Let me tell you that. That's great.
All right. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. The honor's mine.
Does a game like yesterday reveal something about who the team is becoming? I mean, we talk all the time about the identity of this team. What is the identity? Do you think something like this helps them define that?
Not yet. I don't think so. I think they're still trying to find their way. I think, I think Glesnes is going to be a leader on this team, and he's not going to have to wear the captain's armband. We really understand that it's going to be shared between Maya and Marco. It seems the way it's gone so far. So I imagine that'll continue that way, and he'll be a leader on the pitch as well. And he's trying to find his way in terms of, is he going to lead that back line, or when Maya's out there, is he going to lead that back line, or are they going to find that comfort zone between the two if those two guys are out there together? So I think we start there. I think in the middle of the park, we still have some worries in terms of what they're going to do. Is Eric Tommy going to be healthy soon? And if he is, will he be a regular starter, or is he going to spell Marco Royce? Is Marco Royce going to be playing a little higher, or is he going to play a little further towards the midfield stripe to where he can start the attack? It's just a matter of where they can find that comfort zone, a rhythm. And I don't think they found that rhythm yet. I don't see it at the moment. There are times where it looks good, and there are times where it still looks like, okay, they're not comfortable out there. And I think for a time yesterday, last night's game was more of, if the other team doesn't want to play and they need to score, then we're going to keep the ball. And usually that looks a little more comfortable out there. Last night they weren't quite as comfortable, but they were doing what they were supposed to do. And the team from Panama, San Miguelito, they needed to be, well, I think there was more sense of urgency for them as the night wore on. Maybe the game plan was, hey, we're going to stay till 0, and then we're going to steal a goal in the 89th minute, and we're going to win this game, and we're going to move on. Maybe that was their game plan for the opponent. And if it was, it almost worked out because they had a chance right at the end of the game, and they sent it over the bar, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the Galaxy breaking them down and breaking a team down like that, that's something that I think you take on and say, okay, in the future, we have to figure out how to break those type of teams down and open them up. And that could happen in the next round of this tournament.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to say too, it's interesting what Greg said post-match about these early tests for the Galaxy. They faced a lot of different types of opposition. New York City was a team that liked to press. The game was a little bit more open, had a little more intensity. And then you play a deep block team like this in a 5-4-1, and that presents a different type of challenge. And so I think it's interesting when we talk about these lessons learned and looking forward, what Greg talked about with the different types of opposition that this team has placed early on or has played early on. And hopefully those are lessons learned as they take throughout the season, as they figure out solutions and problem solve on the fly on the pitch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think no surprise though. I think from New York City, that's what we saw on the 22nd was what New York City was all about. Yeah. I think from the Galaxy standpoint, okay, maybe they lost the possession battle, but I'm not. Again, I don't look at that percentage as being the definition of a game. I look at chances, shots on goal. I look at goals, the number one stat, right? And for that game, the Galaxy scored a minute 25 in. They were probably the better team the first 20, 25 minutes. Then I think New York took over in terms of possession and put the Galaxy under pressure. But they never really had any real good chances on goal. They were in and around the Galaxy penalty area, but never really a situation to where Mitrovic had to make a huge save or a situation where they kind of muffed a goal opportunity. That was a clean look at goal. So in that regard, I think look at New York City and maybe they're talking to themselves and say, hey, we had this ball for 62, 63 minutes of the game, and we couldn't create anything in the run of play. The penalty kick was a penalty kick. It's unfortunate that Amiro got the yellow card originally earlier in the game, and that led to him being dismissed.
Right.
But, in that regard, I think this game was probably what I expected from a team that came back from Panama, had a couple of days rest. New York had been in Southern California for the entire month. They started with LA in a closed door scrimmage, and then they went to Coachella, and they came back to LA, and finally they had a chance to go home. So it wasn't a team that had to travel. The Galaxy was the team that traveled in this particular case. And then they came back with 5 guys on the bench because they were injured. So a little shorthanded. But I think ultimately what I'm hoping to see sooner than later is the team that's able to break that line at midfield, not get stuck in the middle third, able to turn defenders towards their own goal, given an overload maybe on the right side with Gabriel Peck, with Marco, with maybe it's Yamane or Mauricio, whoever's working that right side for the Galaxy, and then finding João in the box or maybe Joe on the backside. Same thing on the other side. The one thing I'm seeing from the Galaxy early in this season is the Galaxy is building on the left side more often than they normally do, and finding Joe on that left side earlier so far. He's been kind of the workhorse so far in this whatever 3 games that we've seen, and even in training in the preseason, where normally the Galaxy is strictly on the right side, working towards the right side. In this particular case, it's been off to the left a lot of times. We've seen John Nelson play a big role in the flat and getting forward in that channel, and that's not normal for teams of the last few years for the Galaxy.
Joe, I mean, I know Ananda has a pretty good tactical mind, but for lays people like myself, what is Joe getting involved in the play earlier? What does that allow the Galaxy to do? Like, how does that unlock the offense? Who, let's face it, up to this point, hasn't really had a good run of it so far.
Yeah, I think at the moment right now, with what's happening when they're playing with their inverted wingers, is, in my opinion, is Joe's getting stuck too far on the touchline. And if they can play Joe into the channels a little bit more, then that plays him into his stride. That's when he can turn the, in this case, the right back around and force the center back to approach him. And if that's the case, then that opens up again a passing lane for João, or maybe a through ball in for Nelson or Aude, whoever might be playing on the left back position. That's kind of how that opens up. And then, of course, you have Marco Royce right in the middle of the park. That could be part of that as well. We haven't seen that yet. I think both wingers are getting stuck on the chalk at the moment. And I think that's part of where the Galaxy have to, hone their skills a little bit.
Guys, let's take a quick look here at the starting lineup for this match. Joe, as you know, you went into this match and you saw the lineup. Was there anything about the way Greg set up that informed you about what the Galaxy's approach might be? Were there any surprises in the starting 11, or, by product of those injuries that you mentioned, the 5 men down, did it kind of right itself, this lineup?
No, I thought perhaps that he would go with the same lineup he had in Panama and say, okay, we'll go with the same lineup we had there, and then bring guys on like Marco. And I think Joe was a second half substitute in that game in Panama, if I remember right. But he went for the win early. This particular lineup, I think the message was, let's go get a couple of goals, get this over with, and then we'll bring on the other guys. And unfortunately, that didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, I don't know if you guys agree with this, Rob and Joe, but if that first goal was allowed, I think that breaks open. I think it's a slightly different game. I think it forces San Miguelito to come out of its shell a bit more. And I think we see maybe more favorable score lines that the fans were hoping or were expecting. Right. But the more this thing dragged on to 0-0, I mean, we were playing against that 5-4-1, but again, this is a strong lineup, as Joe mentioned. But this is a moment's game, and sometimes the moments there's those sliding door moments during the game as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think the officials made the right call there. VAR got it right, and Joe's upper torso was in an offside position at the very least there, as I saw it on the replay as well. Yeah, I think so. I think looking at the Galaxy and just a kind of a self-critique of the Galaxy would have been, we should be able to break down this type of team. and I think that's probably something that is probably lingering with the club until Saturday, and they'll turn the page and they'll get back to MLS play, and they'll turn the page and then move on to the next round. And I think that's probably maybe lingering with them today, but I think by tomorrow they'll forget about it and move on.
Yeah, no, they definitely need to. Just in looking at how Charlotte played the other day, I mean, it looks like they could be, the Galaxy that is, could be facing another low block, but we'll get to that. Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what Charlotte has been so far. They've been a transition team, a counterattacking team, unless something's changed dramatically in their off season. I think, and they're on the road, so I would imagine something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this one, as Ananda mentioned, had a goal. It was disallowed. Joe's pretty much on it that it was correctly disallowed. But at the end of the game, the tensions, or I guess the anger boiled over, and there was a scuffle there on the sideline. Several players got involved, and it culminated in Mateus Nascimento getting a red card. Right. And so he won't be available for the next round. But the Galaxy did put in a wonderful defensive performance. Everybody's been talking about the fact that they couldn't find a goal, and they're slightly disappointed about that. Even John Nelson told me, they're frustrated not to find the goal, but the team didn't allow a shot on target in this match. So good on the defense. But guys, my colleague Anthony Bautista claims that the Galaxy had every advantage in this one, and he's harping on the fact that they couldn't find the goal that would take them through convincingly. I even argued in a article in the lead up that a convincing win could have jump started the season and just psychologically helped the team. Joe, are we just being emotional young men and reading too much into this one result, or does it loom larger in the grand scheme of the stretch of 3 matches?
No, I tell you, I think what's happening with the fan base, the Galaxy family, is that I think we're all concerned about last year's start, and you want to see this team come out and put 5 goals in each of their 3 games and be able to say, oh, that's over with, that's part of the past. But we still should understand that it isn't the past. What happened last year at the start of the season is in the past, and this is a new season, and they're writing a new script. And the part of the 4 games in 10 days and whatever it's going to be in 16 days coming up, that's big. That's difficult to deal with. And grinding something out is okay, because the way I'm looking at this is we have this part of the season gets us to the World Cup. Then we have two months off or 7 weeks off. And then we have another part of the season where teams will look different. Our Galaxy could look a little different depending on what they decide to do along the way. So this is kind of how I'm looking at the year, is that in 3 different stanzas, so to speak. And the first part of it was this, and it's going to culminate with Saturday's game against Charlotte, to where they can get this behind them and then look up and say, where are we? What's the season record? We know we're on to the next round, the round of 16 of Champions Cup, and then take the next step forward. Take a look at the roster. Who's healthy? Who's at 100%? And who can we now start implementing that we need to implement along the way? That's kind of how I'm seeing things with the Galaxy at the moment.
3 different blocks.
You look at 2009 when Bruce took over the Galaxy. I think they started out with 12 points in 12 games or something like that. And then they found their way. They started to find their way, and that team made it to the final and unfortunately lost in penalties to RSL. But I'm kind of looking at that way. I think my first impression of this season is shore up defensively, make sure you're keeping games 0-1, give yourself a chance to win while your offense finds its way. And that means midfield and forward for the LA Galaxy. And it's probably not the finishing line, but it's more the middle third where the Galaxy need to be more dangerous, I think, to a point where they're going to break that first line of the defense and force teams to respect that a little bit more. I think right now, if last night's game was any indication, I don't know how many touches Maya had and Glesnes had, but they had to be in the high 100s.
Yep.
I think they had 180 and 170 something in the first game, and they're great players, but I think you have to put the ball on the guys who are willing to go forward, and you have to put the positions, the wingers in the positions to be able to be more dominant and more dangerous going forward. And I think those are easy fixes along the way, and I think they'll figure it out.
Joe, it's interesting that you should mention that because you perfectly segued for Ananda. He actually brought up this very thing about the defenders and the touches, and I'll let him break it down.
Yeah, well, I'll just bring up the box score really quick for everyone in chat, everyone that's listening, on audio. I'll go ahead and narrate this. So this is the final box score from the second leg of the CCC match. LA Galaxy there on the left, 13 shots to San Miguelito 7. Rob talked about it. Galaxy didn't give up a shot on target, which is, again, a plus, I think, a tip of the hat to the Galaxy defense. Galaxy had 3 shots on target. We've been harping on the possession stat. 73% possession for the Galaxy to 27 Sporting San Miguelito. So, again, I think one of the big reasons why some of the fans are up in arms and saying, why couldn't we do more with that possession? Might talk about that a little bit in a second. Pass accuracy, again, a high pass accuracy for the Galaxy. No surprise there. But here's the big stat we talked about earlier. We have this one key stat on this show, and we just talked about it earlier. Joe alluded to it just a second ago. But if you look at the touches amongst all the LA Galaxy players, you look at those first 5 there, you're going to have to go to the 6th highest player to get to a Galaxy attacker at Gabriel Peck at 69. Yoshida and Glesnes, John Nelson, Cuevas, and Cerillo all had over 100 touches in this game. And you look at the attackers, and it's going to take you a while to get to the number of touches that they had. So again, it kind of makes us think a little bit from whether it's a objective standpoint, a tactical standpoint. Rob and I asked Joe to ourselves really to chat, and you guys get in on this conversation, which is, are the Galaxy playing too much with a handbrake on? Like, are we just reading too much into this? I know Greg was very clear in his post-match comments about having to do a job, having to advance to the next round, and doing what is needed, especially with a log of games early on the season. I don't know, Rob, if you want to go ahead and give the chat here what the post-match comments was from Greg.
Well, no, I mean, I'll just basically break it down, and then we'll let Joe comment. Greg's comments are, if we were truly tied and needed to win the game, I would have done things differently too. You don't need to expose yourself to go try to score goals, especially as the game progresses. When you're ahead and not giving up really much on the defensive side, I chose to keep it a little bit more stable and a little less exposed. Could we maybe have created a few more chances? Maybe, but it's a knockout situation, and you have the advantage. Joe, are Galaxy fans right? Is Greg playing with the handbrake on? Or, I mean, just like Ananda says, I mean, it's being pragmatic and getting the job done. Like, just, hey, we need to get this job done. This is the way we're going to play. If it's ugly, who cares? We're going to get it done.
Well, I think just my mindset going into the game was the onus was on San Miguelito to come in and try to get the away goal and go. And they didn't. And that was interesting to me. And so once they dropped into that low block, which was their game plan, I think the only thing that was concerning to me, and I can understand why the fans would be concerned, is the ball got stuck at the center circle, defensive side of the center circle for the Galaxy. And I think that was probably the concern as you watch this game going forward, that there was a lot of touch between Maya, Edwin, Mauricio, and back. Yeah. And it's not necessarily that it went around to the right side or to the left side. It kept on coming back. And so then you start looking at saying, okay, who's not showing for the ball? Why aren't they finding the players forward? And that could have been part of the game plan, saying, okay, don't press this situation. Don't get yourself exposed in the back. Don't get that first ball behind the center backs and maybe one of their forwards able to run it down. We saw that early. I think it was inside 5 minutes. It was a ball that went over the top, and Maya had to close down the forward, Herrera, I believe, on the right side of the penalty area, and really did something, a kind of a heroic move to get the ball back, and then he crossed it back to his goalkeeper, Marcinkowski, if my memory serves me correctly. That was early in the match. So the Galaxy didn't want to get into a situation of having those happen on a regular basis. And so I'm sure that was in the back of the minds of especially the young players that were put on the ball a lot. And they were content with let's just keep the ball. And nobody really tried to take on the player in front of them. And maybe the frustration was beat the guy in front of you, force him to turn around and chase you, force the other defender to come out of their shell, and then you start opening up lanes. But I think ultimately, as a group, they just kind of looked at it and said, okay, we're just going to continue to play this way. I didn't see anybody say, hey, I want the ball. Marco came and showed for the ball a couple of times in the first half to try to get into the game, both on the left side and the right side of the center circle. And then he kind of stayed a little higher. And after that, it was really those 4 or 5 guys that you just showed us in the stats that were on the ball the entire match. And then I think Gabby got on the ball really in the final 20 minutes of the game. He didn't have a lot of possession for much of that game until maybe the final 20. And then the Galaxy started going to the right side more often, and he was more involved. That's just kind of how I remember it.
Yeah. And Joe, zooming out for a second, looking at this as in blocks, like you mentioned earlier, covering the Galaxy as long as you have, I think one of the things that I think about is perhaps fans are underestimating the toll a continental competition takes, especially early on in the season. Not only just the travel, the different time zones, managing the players' workloads, etc. I mean, covering this team for as long as you have, do you think fans are underestimating the toll that this takes? And because of that, on top of how a team like San Miguelito plays the Galaxy in that low block, does that also warrant a more cautious approach like what Greg is managing at the moment?
Well, I think what happens is we think it's very similar to what happens in the UEFA Champions League, right? And we don't realize that a flight from France to Italy is what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on where you're going in Italy, or vice versa. A flight from England to Italy is maybe 3.5 to 4 hours, something like that. So the Galaxy went on a 7-hour flight into a completely different situation in Panama, in Central America, all the way to the bottom, right? To play a team that plays in what looked to be a 2,000-seat stadium. That's not happening in Champions League in Europe. It's a little bit different. And the style of play is a little bit different. The language of the play, of course, is a little bit different in terms of if you're looking at it that way. And it's harder. And I could tell you right now that even the European players, the American players who play in Europe, when they come play back for Concacaf qualifying for the World Cup, it's an eye-opener for them when they say, man, this is really difficult here for other reasons. It's not a situation of necessarily, I don't want to say quality because that's disrespectful, but it's just a different situation. It's kind of rugged. It's a rugged style of game, and not one that you will necessarily have in the UEFA Champions League. And that was one of the concerns I had last night. It was the fact that second 45, you're 0-0. Things are going to get weird because we're in the Concacaf Champions Cup, and things could get weird. There could be a dubious call. There could be other things that could really change the momentum of this game. And at times it looked like that could have happened in this match. And the Galaxy in that regard were somewhat fortunate. Even at the end of the game, Nascimento gets the red card, and that's kind of going to cost them in the next Champions League round a little bit. And you kind of look at those things and you say, those are things that cost you a little bit along the way. And so maybe you look back and say, take care of business, put 3 goals, and cruise. It just didn't work out that way. So maybe credit the opponent for getting things done, because they stayed in the shell. They didn't jump out. They didn't earn any yellow cards. They didn't put themselves in a bad situation. There was one that could have been a handball, but I think it was looked at and it wasn't called a handball, the penalty area. I think that was in the first half, if I remember correctly. But then I saw as the players came walking back onto the field, before the start of the second half, the defender himself was talking to the referee, and the referee was kind of showing him on his body where the ball hit. So I don't know, maybe the refs were second guessing themselves on that particular play, but nonetheless, you move forward, and whether the Galaxy deserved the penalty or not, that's over with, and you move ahead. And that's what I'm saying now. What's happened over the last 3 games is this: the Galaxy have a point in MLS, and they moved through to the round of 16 in CONCACAF Champions Cup. It hasn't been pretty to this point, but this is where they are.
Yeah, it hasn't been pretty indeed. And you know what? One of the things that I talk about all the time is I want to see effort and I want to see progress at this point. Last year, the Galaxy had no points, and that they did do a little bit better in the second leg against Herediano, but yeah, it was definitely unconvincing. Joe, Julian talked about mentality in the lead up to this tie. In the first match to be behind and then find the draw in the second to maintain the point, even though Emiro gets sent off. And now the team finds a way to get the shutout in advance. What does that tell you about the mentality of this team?
Well, I think mentally they're stronger this year than they were last year, because even when they suffered the red card to Garces, again, you didn't see a bunch of shots on Mitrovic, not forcing the goalkeeper to make a bunch of saves in that game, and they were a man down. They didn't look like they were a man down, honestly. They weren't flailing. There wasn't emergency defending going on with Emiro out. I think the 2 substitutions were about to come on to the pitch. I think Emiro was going to leave the match, but they were going to be at 11-on-11. But he got the red card, unfortunately, and they got the equalizing goal on the penalty, and that just kind of happens. This is part of the game, unfortunately. And in his case, I think it's a learning experience for him, because if he doesn't take the silly yellow, then it's a penalty for the sake of argument the second time around, but he's still on the field, and it doesn't shorthand his team. And the Galaxy worked through that the rest of the final 30 minutes or so of that game, including stoppage time. So in that regard, they're stronger mentality. They're better defensively. Are they better building out of the back defensively? I don't know. Not yet, I think. But that all comes with, again, getting the games under your belt, getting into a rhythm, sleeping in your own bed a little bit, not having games every 3 days. That's what happened to them to start this season. And I think they've managed it relatively well. Not exactly how we would like it as fans, because we probably want them to be 3-0 with 3-0 victories and maybe a 2-1 victory in the game against New York City to give them some credit as well. But that's, it's not a video game. And that's one of the things I think you deal with a lot of our fan base nowadays, is that we think it's just like a video game, and it's not. There's a human element there.
So, Joe, the defense and the mentality, are those the positives that fans should take away from the first 3 games into this next block of games here?
Yeah, what I like about the last 3 games is the fact that your goalkeepers are not getting tested so much. They're able to manage the situation in front of them, and that's not what the Galaxy has been over the last couple of years, even in the championship year. And so that's better. That's improved for the Galaxy. I like that. I think there is firepower up front. I think João is a good striker, and I think once he settles in and gets a better understanding with Marco, with Peck, and with Joe, that's going to be a nice tandem of 4 going forward. I'd like to see the 6s, or the 6 and the 8, or the 2 8s, or whatever you want to call them, get more integrated and more confident to be able to play a little higher above midfield in order to maybe launch those guys a little bit more, and as opposed to looking back. But that's going to come with time. Elijah Winder has more of a mentality of going forward. Lucas Sanabria, his mindset, he's still more of a forward mindset guy. Mickey Yamane, when he's in there on the right side, he will jump into the middle of the park and get forward as well. And there's no there's no critique of him because there's trust in his veteran player ability, right? So he's got more of a longer leash. And so I think that's kind of where we are. And I think the most important thing probably on the mindset of the Galaxy is don't make defensive mistakes. And I think that showed over the last 3 games. You know, don't make defensive mistakes, and maybe that's held them back a little bit from being more fluid offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe the concentration on that one aspect has made it a little less natural or fluid. We do have a super chat from Hector Ramos. Hello, Big Heck. He says, all I'm saying, we are missing a true number 10. Big Heck, I don't know what to tell you. Ricky's not here this year.
Right now he's a year away. And
we got to do with it.
We don't know what that's going to look like a year away, but hopefully it'll be the same guy that was with us in 2024. But, you know, we'll see what happens here. I don't know. That it's a fluid situation. They'll find somebody along the way. Maybe it's Eric Tommy that comes in and helps out. Maybe there's a recalibration of how they use Marco to be that 10 potentially. But if you're looking for somebody to be a freelancer like Ricky Puig, then that's not the case, because Ricky freelanced a lot the way he played the game and the way he played in the system of Greg Vanney. The Galaxy currently don't have the player with that mindset.
Yep.
Well, he's been called a unicorn, so I don't know.
Well, Kuhn said he was 1 of 1, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, and then listen, there's good and bad. I mean, there's of everything. I mean, and there was more good with Ricky, and it was a different, for example, a different chore for a young player like Edwin Cerrillo, where Edwin would win the ball back, and there was Ricky right there saying, "Give me the ball," 5 yards away from him. Where now he's having to do more and more running, for that matter. There's more space to cover, especially if he plays as the lone 6 going forward. That's a lot of work for him and for anybody, for that matter. So, we'll see going forward. This is Justin Hack, his first couple of games here with the Galaxy and understanding the system and being more involved with the Galaxy going forward. I think as he gets more comfortable, then suddenly you have a little less on the shoulders of Edwin out there, and they can be better together. I think that was perhaps part of the issue last night.
Joe, I know that we don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for you being here with us. We're going to leave you here with one or two last questions.
Sure.
What's one thing that you're seeing right now that you think maybe fans aren't yet?
Well, I think it's the other way around. I think the Galaxy fans right now are wanting to see a certain thing that's not there yet, and I think again that's where I think maybe the concern is among the Galaxy fans is that you're wanting to see 2-3 goals a game. You're wanting to see putting these teams down and winning easily. And let me remind you, I mean, if everybody's going to start looking at the Supporters Shield race, the Galaxy's ahead of the defending champions, who are 0-1 on the season. The Galaxy has a better goal differential than the defending champions right now. I mean, I'm not going to get into that because we're not in May and June. I'll start looking at that stuff. But I think it's important to understand that these are early days, and what they've had to go through here in these first 3 games was a heavy lift. And for the most part, they came through unscathed. I think they don't get that penalty called against New York. They win 1-0, and maybe they get another goal against the run of play there. And suddenly the Galaxy is in first place in the Western Conference on 3 points. It's so early, but I do say this, and I said this at the top of the interview, that Saturday night's very important. You want to see the team take another step forward. You don't want them to lose any more points at home.
Yeah. Speaking of Saturday night, Joe, we'll leave you with this one here. What are you going to be watching for in that match against Charlotte?
Well, if they come out in a low and mid block, if Charlotte plays that way and they come out to counterattack the Galaxy, I want to see them have more courage in trying to break down the opponent. I think the Galaxy's been stuck on the wings in all 3 of their games, and I want to see them be able to open up the middle of the park a little bit more against their opponent and become a little more dangerous and make them more uncomfortable. And if you force them all the way back to defend inside their own penalty area, so be it. But you can't play around them. You know, I think teacupping is something that we hear all the time. Touch line to touch line, going around the middle of the park, around the center circle, and starting all over again. That just, to me, eventually sets you up for a bad pass and a quick counter into your own penalty area. At some point, you have to send a penetrating pass into the opponent's defensive third, and you have to get onto it, and you got to be dangerous. And I think that's what I'm looking for from the Galaxy, is to be more dangerous and, you know, hey, get that early goal again like they did against New York, force a team that likes to counterattack to open up, and now you're on the front foot, right?
That's right.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
From your melodious voice to the Lord's ears, Joe, we thank you so much for being here once again. Guys, Joe, of course, will be on the call as usual. Go ahead and show him some love. This guy is the birthday boy, so show him some love as well. Joe, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you Saturday night. Ananda, happy birthday once again.
Thank you so much.
All right, gentlemen.
Cheers, thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Guys, the incomparable Joe Tutino, one and only. And I mean, I say it all the time. Lakers had Schick. I mean, Dodgers had Vin. I mean, Galaxy has Joe. You know, it's right there, man. So, Ananda, what was your big takeaway?
Only one?
Bars, right? Bars, right?
Well, I need a moment because like I even said it in another group chat. I forgot which one. It might have been with the Soccer and 60 crew. I said, you know, we're gonna have the great Joe Tutino on today, and I'm just gonna ask questions and I'm just gonna sit back and listen. I'm not even gonna speak. Like, you're in the presence of greatness. In those moments, you just need to listen more than you speak. So I'm still like soaking it all in. But a lot of what he said, Rob, and this is why I go back to my one-word reaction, which is conflicted. Like, it's not affirmation bias and like reaffirming like my own thoughts, but it is putting things in perspective. Like everything that Joe is saying about how the Galaxy are approaching these first 3 games, and it's one of those things, like two things can be true, right? Like the performance that we're seeing is not where we want it to be. It's not the standard maybe where fans and even myself think that they should be, but these are building blocks. These are steps towards, it's so early in the season, and you just need to do what you need to do. You need to get the job done in certain phases, and you just react to what you see in the next stretch of games, the next 5, 10, 15 games, right? So that's why, like, I feel like those two things, those polarities can be true at one time. And that's why I have this conflicting feeling. And Joe put it in perspective. You know, he's like, the Galaxy have to manage first through this 4-game and 10 game block. And now this next one that's coming up after Charlotte, 5 and 15, right? 5 and 15. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, I gotta digest. I just gotta soak it all in, man. That was too good. That was too good.
Yeah, no, I mean, you saw how I was, you know, coming in. Like I remember we were talking with Dylan, shout out Dylan, and I was like more joking, but like also kind of like lightweight serious. Like I was like, burn it all down, right? And
yeah,
you know, like I asked Joe, you know, like, is that just like the young hot-headed person in me, like just being so alarmed, or is it that my expectations were too high? Like, or my expectations were too high, and so like I need to temper them and be realistic about who this team is.
You know what? Can I make a comment? And maybe this might resonate with people.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
I'm including myself in this, by the way. I think we underestimated San Miguelito. Like, I really do. Meaning, I forgot who said it even on the broadcast, or maybe I heard it after, but they are really good defensively. Like, individually, they have really good defenders. Individually, they won most of their duels. Like, we couldn't even get past the left wing back and the right wing back for most of that match, right? They were compact. They knew where to be. They plugged the gaps. They're a 66th place team in Concacaf. and I approached this two-legged tie that way. But I think even myself, I underestimated them. And I think it's yes, the Galaxy didn't play up to their potential, but I also think we underestimated how compact and how organized San Miguelito were going to be. And by the way, Mount Pleasant is probably going to play the same way. So now the Galaxy, going back to Joe's point of view, the Galaxy need to figure out how to break down these low blocks, because we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of that during the season, right? But luckily, the Galaxy did just enough to get to at least, fulfill their objective and get to the next round.
I mean, depending on who you ask, luckily, I mean, I did hear some chatter out there in the interwebs that some folks were like, I would have preferred they had lost, so that way they fire Vanny already, like just get it done and over with. And I was like, whoa, that's extreme. But like I'll never wish bad upon the team, but it's like I said, two things can be true. You can be disappointed with the performance,
which I am,
but then also be like, all right, yes, they did get a point in their first MLS match, which is more than they did in their first MLS match last year, and then they did get through, which was the objective. So far they've carried everything out, like all the objectives they've set out so far. They've carried out. No losses. They got through to the next round. I know it wasn't pretty, and I think what F's it up too is that, not even maybe F's it up, but like kind of harshes the mellow for Galaxy fans even more and their expectations, is the fact that teams like LAFC went out there and murdered Real España 6-1, and then other teams like Philly and other teams like were just like running rush out over these other teams, right? E Super One says Steve and Rada Pumas. Yeah. So I mean that's I think as well as like why Galaxy fans are upset when they look at it, like they see these other teams just like stomping on no disrespect to them, but like these CONCACAF teams that are like more on the minnow side, and they go like Galaxy should be able to do that.
But when in the last 3 years have we seen the Galaxy team be efficient against a low block? Like I never saw it. That's what I'm saying. So like
you want to make Galaxy play a low block.
Sporting San Miguelito had the perfect game plan, and I mean Potterman said that the rest of MLS are playing minions, and then I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that San Miguelito played up to their potential, to the right strategy, which is the Galaxy's Achilles heel. Like especially without Ricky, we have not shown any like propensity to break down a low block. Like even in the Western Conference Final, we scraped a goal in the second half by Dayon to advance, and Seattle is I don't know if they play a low block necessarily, but they're a very sturdy defensive team, right? So the Galaxy have never been good in this, and this is a whole nother conversation, by the way, of are the Galaxy like actually a possession-based team or not? That's a totally separate conversation. But yeah, like look,
that is like a separate conversation.
Like I said, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think the Galaxy have not played to their potential. E Super correctly said the word lethargic. They were very lethargic in their passing,
for sure.
But at the same time, like I think San Miguelito played to their game plan, played to their strengths. And like I said, I wish the offside goal had counted, because I think that completely changes the tie. I think that changes the game, in my opinion. Just like the Emmy red card changes the game against NYCFC, because we were in control in that game as well.
Well, yeah, I think what a lot of folks don't see post-match is, and they'll see the press conference if you subscribe to Laguna Galaxiana, and that way when there's a press conference immediately after a match. But usually there's a press conference when there's an MLS match with a press conference, and we get coaches and players in the press conference. For CONCACAF Champions Cup, all we have is the coach in the press conference, and then we have something called the mix zone, and we speak to the players basically just like directly, like just right in front of them, and it's that typical scrum that you see in locker rooms where you're just like a bunch of microphones in front of the players. That's basically what happens, y'all. So I think what y'all didn't see is just how upset and disappointed these players were in themselves to not be able to get the goal. Like they know what the failings are. They know that they should have gotten the goals, and it just didn't happen for them. And then at one point, it's like Ananda says, the handbrake came on, and they said, okay, well, it's not really happening. Like, let's let's get through. But yeah, no, I mean, like, again, you can be disappointed. The results haven't, the performances haven't been up to standard, and you would hope that they're learning from each passing game. Greg said as much. He said he knows where some adjustments can be made already just in these first couple of games. Let's hope that that's true, because the Galaxy do have a match this weekend. We talked about it. And this one is against Charlotte. This one happens at the Digs on Saturday, and this one is kind of evenly, well, not kind of, it is evenly split. It's a 1-1-1 record between the Galaxy and Charlotte. The Galaxy claimed the inaugural matchup in 2022 with a 1-0 road win. I believe that was an Efra Alvarez banger. So if you remember that goal, good on you. More recently, in 2024, they played to a 0-0 draw. The Galaxy have only managed 5 wins in 19 regular season matches against Eastern Conference opponents since the start of 2023, losing 10 of those. All 5 of those victories have come at home, so that's a good omen. Where they have a record of 5 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses against teams from the East. The other good omen is Charlotte has managed just 2 wins in 14 regular season away games against teams from the West, with the most recent of those coming in May 2023 against. Do you know, Mananda? Do you know against who?
Nope.
Well, it's the Galaxy. Yes, you guessed it, the Galaxy. Having just the bad reputation of being that one and only loss. So that's your kind of look at the tail of the tape really quick going into that match. But let's look at the standings. After one match, of course, the Galaxy are in 12th place, 1 point, 1 goal for, 1 goal against, 0 goal difference. And then Charlotte, pretty similar. After one match, they're this is the only part that's not similar. Charlotte is in 5th in the Eastern Conference after their tie with St. Louis. 1 point, 1 goal for, 1 against, 0 goal difference. That was a Pep Biel goal in that game versus St. Louis, and a Wolf Zaha assist. That's pretty much been the only big chance that they've had all season. I mean, they pretty much sat back in a low block and invited pressure because they were on the road. They were outshot 22-9, and Kristijan Kalina had 10 saves in that match. Ananda, 10 effing saves in your first match. It's like, hey,
he's a monster. He's a monster.
Yeah, let's get stuck in immediately, right? So Galaxy are not going to have Chris Frindoff or Emilio Gattis available for this one. Suspended, of course. Emilio Gattis is for this one. On Charlotte's side, Henry Kessler is missing for them. And Ananda will let you get to the predicted starting lineups.
Well, you're going first, so because your slide is up.
Dang. Harsh.
But guys, this is Rob's predicted 11. Pretty interesting, I think, in my opinion. Mitrovic in goal, Aude, Yoshida, Glesnes, Yamane back 4, Cerillo and Hack, as well as Eric Tommy as the addition at the number 10 for Marco Royce. And then a front 3 of the DPs, which is Klaus, Paintsville, and Peck. Eric Tommy, Papa. Yeah? Feeling that?
Yeah, reason being, Royce played a lot of minutes recently. Already, Greg's been talking about, we need to manage him. Greg's been talking about how Eric Tommy's going to be available for Saturday. And, yeah, I think if he's available, have him out there, man. I mean, let him run out. I mean, at this point, I didn't really see that much incision, that much that I was convinced by Royce with in the last match. So he was specifically called out as being someone that can, play in that 10 spot, be creative, unlock a pass, unlock a defense. So if he's available, I'm all for it. And Greg said that he is going to be available for Saturday. So it just really depends on how ready he is, like how much he has in him. I mean, is he ready for 90? I don't know. Is he ready to start? Who knows? Is he
Yeah.
ready for more of like 30 on the back end?
I like the shout though, Rob. I like the shout. It was to the point where I almost even changed my own lineup when I saw you put Tommy in there, because yeah, it looks like he's ready. He's fit to go. I know people are asking about it in chat, but is he ready for that 90? That's my question mark, right? So I think that's why I didn't opt for Tommy, because I just don't think he's ready for the 90. And I'm with you. I just think Royce has logged a lot of minutes. If anything, he'll come in for the last 30. Let's say it's a 0-0 game and we need to break the deadlock. But again, I'm going to persist with this and let's see if this happens. So it might be weird because I have two lineups, but let me explain.
Otra vez.
So let's start on the left. So 4-4-1-1 again. So again, I'm just going to narrate for the audio listeners.
Whoa, this
Mitrovic.
one on the right is crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
let me explain.
Get to that in a sec.
We'll get to that in a sec. So on paper, it's going to be Mitrovic, Aude, Hack, Glesnes, Yamane, back four. Midfield four with the left and right mid, Peck and Paintsil, Serio and Sanabria in the midfield, and then Nasi and Klaus up top. Again, Nasi is going to be like a second striker / withdrawn striker, etc. But okay, so I would have been with you with Tommy, but like I said, I don't think he's ready. I think Royce needs the break. I'm putting Hack in the center back positions because, Papa, we had this conversation about Justin Hack last time. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't like the way he looks in the midfield right now. Like, and I don't know if that's because of instruction. I don't know if that's because he's afraid to lose the ball in the midfield and he wants to keep things tidy. I don't know. It's almost like he is immune to making a forward pass, like, and looking, and like, this was part of the scouting report, right? Like, I thought that we were going to get a player that would like to break the lines and get his attackers. Like, as soon as he wins the tackle, he looks up and he hits his attackers, but we just haven't seen that. But then the question is, okay,
I saw the intention a couple of times last game,
but then he shied away from it. I even remember
he couldn't thread the needle. Like, I saw he tried
that.
like 2 or 3 times and he misplaced the pass,
Yeah, or that. So I want to see Hack at center back because maybe that gives him more license, as Jakob Glesnes has hit with these long, crossfield passes. Maybe that gives Hack more license to kind of step a little bit in the midfield after he makes a challenge and hit JP like right away on that touch line or in the middle of the pitch, with, I think more probably in the middle of the pitch because of what Joe was talking about, getting Joe off the touch line and him making that out to in run versus him being stuck on the sideline. So maybe that unlocks Hack in a certain way. I'm not sure, but I'd love to see that. Explanation for my setup on the right. Remember
the Christmas tree?
Remember the conversation we were having around Mickey Yamane and him stepping into the midfield. The number one conversation between the fan circles right now is our midfield. Like, that's the number one issue with this team, right? And so I just think with this lineup that I have on the left, the way we build up and the way we increase the potency of our midfield is to tuck in Yamane. I mean, we've seen Yamane, technically he's a good player. He likes to jump into the attack and create those combination plays. And the other thing that this allows us to do too is you see that triangle on the right, Klaus, Nasi, and Peck. I'm sure they built up a lot of chemistry over training. You think about Mickey Yamane potentially jumping into the attack and creating those right-hand side overloads, 4v3s, 3v2s. That's what I want to see. Like, if we can't get any other ball progression without the services of Ricky Puig, and if we haven't unlocked that in the last 3 games, we've got to find another way to do it. And in my opinion, this is one way Greg might solve that problem. And we saw a little bit of it. Against NYCFC. I thought Mickey Yamane had a really good game. I thought he was technically secure on the ball. He jumped in the midfield in the right spots. He supported the attacks in the right moments. And because the other thing is, other than Eric Tommy, which I agree with you, if he's fully fit, what other option do we have, right? For ball progression and connecting defense to offense. And so I kind of want to see this. I kind of want to see this like 3-2-5 build up, which is what we used a lot, by the way, in 2024. I kind of want to see that and see if it works against a low block and creating those 4v3s, like I said, 3v2s, especially on the right half space. Because you look at that triangle, Nasi, Klaus, and Peck, there's some good technical ability in that trio, right? And you put Yamane in there. Maybe that unlocks the pick. Is that the saying? Maybe that unlocks the defense without Marco Royce being in the 10.
Yeah, and then maybe if you have Hack back there, you can check out his passing range as well by passing the midfield and getting the ball to Pack directly. But I'm starting to see the vision in that 3-2-4-1. It doesn't look so crazy when you explain it like that. But at first I was like, whoa, bro. I just don't think that Greg's gonna play that. We know that.
But he played it. He played it in 2024, Papa, and we were so good at it. And granted, we had Ricky. I get it. He's a game breaker. I get it. He's a cheat code. But it's like our midfield is non-functioning right now. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. Like, and so what do we?
It was a different time. It was a different king. Sorry, Game of Thrones reference. But anyway,
so
no,
it's
man,
like my
said it. Ricky's not here, so like.
So we need.
Greg is
like,
risk adverse.
I don't know if you guys noticed this in the chat, but like, the times that we were successful against Sporting San Miguelito was when we increased the tempo of the play. We had flicks, one-touch passes. There was more creativity. Klaus expressed himself. Gabby expressed himself. So when you put more technically able players in like a 4v3 or 3v2 situations,
close together,
and even if you turn over the ball, there's still enough like your three back, your center back, and there's still enough defensive organization for you to stop the counterattack. That's how you're gonna break teams down. And Charlotte's gonna play a low block, right? Yeah. So again, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm super galaxy braining this, but we've got to find a solve for that midfield because it's not working the way it works right now.
Well, wouldn't it be amazing if they got a win for your birthday? Danger Men for Charlotte. We already called out a couple of them. Wilf, man, ex-Manchester United product. What could have been if he had just not dated David Moyes' daughter? Anyway, that's a Sanjita rumor. I don't want to put that one out there. But anyway, he has 10 goals and 11 assists since the start of last season in MLS, and then he fed Pep Biel for their one and only goal so far this year in their first match. Biel himself has 11 and 12 since last year. They picked up Luca De La Torre in the offseason, formerly of San Diego. De La Torre is known as a good ball progressor. You didn't really see that in the first match. Obviously, they sat in that low block. And then, obviously, we already called out this man, Kalinia, in this first match day, 10 saves. He makes the team of the match day for MLS. So those are your danger men for Charlotte. And Ananda, here we go to the receipts part. Chat, go ahead and let us know what you think the score will be for this match if the Galaxy will win. Drop those game predictions starting now. Ananda, go ahead and hit us up for the Galaxy to win this match. They have to ...
Man, there's like a million ways I can go with this.
Truth.
So I'm just gonna say this out loud because I have to think through this a little bit. So we know Charlotte's gonna play a low block.
True.
Joe talked about finding ways to break down a low block. That's one of the solutions things that this team needs to work on, right? So, but it's like the question is like how do they do that with the personnel that they have? Like we haven't shown a consistent pattern of breaking a team down like that. So
exactly. No one that can be that incisive right now.
Exactly. So you know what? I'm gonna use your answer maybe from a couple weeks ago, and this might be like not the right approach. Yeah, exactly. Like maybe not the right approach or game plan, but it's like you talked about the ability to play free, right?
Not you, middle.
Oh God, are we gonna bring that? We're gonna bring that up again? Oh God, too funny. But I think there is something to be said about that when it comes to the final third. Like what I saw from this team against San Miguelito was like a resistance to pass forward, like a resistance to take risk, a resistance to pass and move. Like, remember when I texted you during the game, like everything that's good coming right now out of the Galaxy is when there's fast, quick, and sharp movement off the ball, not 11 players standing in their zone, right? So maybe to unlock that, like there needs to be a little bit of a mindset, especially in the attackers, of like, okay, I need to express myself a little bit. Like, I need to play a little more creatively. I need to move for my teammates, create spaces not only for myself, but for others. And maybe that's a mindset thing, Rob. It's like, okay, like there's no this is not a do or die situation. We're playing at home in front of our home fans in probably like perfect 70-degree weather. We need to like do something about this, right? Because like if the players were just as frustrated as you told me they were when they walked into the mix zone the other night,
John was pretty frustrated, man.
I think there's gonna be a little chip on their shoulder, and maybe it allows them to play a little bit more freely. I don't know, just a guess on my part.
That's the hope. That's the hope, right? All right, for the Galaxy to win this match, they have to, E Super One says they need to wake up. Yeah, kind of resucitar. Like,
yeah,
there's got to be at a certain point, kind of like you said, there was moments in this game where like they were super quick. They were throwing around flicks. They were running off of each other, but we saw that just very, very seldom in this match, right? And I want a full 90 of that. For the Galaxy to win this match, they have to give me a full 90 of that type of play, running off of each other, playing for each other, being in spaces where they need to be. Sure, there was times where a couple of these cats would try a flick and it wouldn't come off, and I'd be like, but I'd rather they try the flick and rather them trying to run off of each other and stuff like that than them being as static as they were. We saw a couple of times in this match where they would literally stop the ball and then direct their teammates around them. So I want them to play with that speed at which they played in those moments where they did cause San Miguelito problems. So that's it for me. Ananda, I would normally say Te Toca, you're first here for score predictions, but actually chat is first.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're both wrong. Yeah. So let's pull them up. Okay, start with Nightmare 1-1.
Cthulhu's Nightmare 1-1.
E Super 1. E Super 2-1. He said he's being optimistic. La Habra says 1-0 Galaxy. I don't know what's going on with my thing there. Tranquilito, shout out 3-1 Galaxy. I would love that. Pessimistic Pottermus says 1-1 if we are lucky. Joe 13 cool, another 0-0 Boar Fest. Damn. You know what? Honestly, not out of the realm of possibility.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Especially on the road. But Nightmare changed his mind. He said if we score multiple goals, 2-2 tie. Change his mind. Big Heck. Positive Big Heck. Breakout game 3-0. Sir Dave,
I'm excited. I'm planning Big Heck's bachelor party.
I think this is the first time I'm seeing you in chat, Sir Dave. So welcome. He says 1-0 Galaxy. Big Heck says go big or go home. Let's see. Hacker says 3-2. Why is my chat not working today? And then he says, wait, 1-1 both get penalty.
You changed. I think the first time I've seen Hacker as well. Shout out Hacker. What up, man? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is lovely to be here with all of you. Yeah, I think that's we got Mike Jones with a 1-1. Mike Jones 1-1. So yeah, now it is time for these score predictions from us, Ananda. And since I went first last time, that's you.
Oh man, I'm just gonna go obligingly here. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Like I said, I think Charlotte is going to play on the counter. I think they're going to set up in a low block. They're on the road, and they're going to try to hit us with Wilf and Pep Biel. I mean, that's just how it's going to be, right? And you talked about the danger man earlier. So, and I think as much as I said that the Galaxy need to play with a little more creative freedom, I just don't think they will. Not this early in the season. I don't think they have the confidence yet. And I think, but having said that, I think the Galaxy are going to pull it out just 1-0. Yeah, 1-0.
Well, I will tell you, like I told our good friend B-Loves when I saw him at the digs just before the game started and I was on my way to the press box. He was about to scarf down on some nachos. And I said, well, enjoy those nachos because You won't be getting goals. It's going to be a 0-0. And that's what I'm calling for this one as well.
Wow. 3 draws in a row, huh?
Yeah. I mean, the pessimist in me goes, man, winless. But then the optimist in me says undefeated. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like hard for us as fans, as people covering this team, like what we've seen, the body of work these past few games, like what is going to convince us otherwise that we're going to go on an offensive tear, right? Unless
PTSD, homie.
And that's the thing. Like that's the word that keeps ringing in the back of my mind. Is like
trauma.
Is like the trauma of giving up silly goals at the end of games. It's giving up like 3 or 4 goals, right? Giving up 7 in New York. Like maybe it's a little bit of that, or maybe it is a mentality shift. Maybe it is an identity change. I don't know, Rob. I don't know. Like we won't know the answer to this question until we see the next 5, 10, 15 games. Like we just won't know. And this is why.
What do you think is a good sample size? 10, 15? Mind you, 15's midpoint.
I think we can start. I think we can make an early conclusion after this next 5 out of 15, 5 game block out of 15-day stretch, right? And then the next stretch after that. So like next 5, we'll know something about this team because we'll know if they've advanced to
the 9 games in
to the quarterfinals, right? And we'll know what that'll be. What, like close to 10 games played in the league. So we'll have an idea. Like we'll have an idea of what this team is, right? But even that, like, I don't know. It's because you remember. I feel like in 2024 we didn't even hit offensive stride until that LAFC match, and that was what, August? That 4-2 comeback.
Yeah, that's something that Greg's been talking about. Is he says I believe he said that the first 5 of 6 in 2024 were draws or something like that. I can't remember the exact stat. Somebody fact check me on that. But if you're looking for a reason to look for optimism, is that they obviously did get off to a slow start in 2024, and they found their way to win MLS Cup. Ananda, let's hit a really quick shout out here before we go ahead and wrap up. Just want to let you guys know that our good friend and the man who produced and made the title track for the show called La Orbita will be performing live on March 6th. That's Arquitecto Verbal, as well with fellow G Pacheco Bates is going to be performing live on March 6th, 9 p.m. Go ahead and hit him up for more information. And then really quick, Ananda, did you, I mean, this one kind of shook me, and I know it's going to shake all Galaxy fans. Well, just go ahead and show this, and I'll explain. Show this next graphic here, and then I'll go ahead and.
Oh, I don't think I have the graphic that you want. Just
no,
so
I do.
Okay.
I know exactly what graphic you have it. So go ahead and then I'll explain to folks what exactly this is. So, MLS teams now have the ability to put a back of the jersey sponsor on the bottom. So I wonder who that is going to be. We have, I think Brother Lex did this mock-up of this Modelo on the back of the Galaxy jersey. However, I regret to inform you that just before jumping on tonight's pod, I saw that Modelo became the official cerveza of LAFC. So this one is unfortunately not going to happen
that's such a
now or in the foreseeable future. I mean, I know this one's going to hit a bunch of G's hard who enjoy their Modelo every day. Joe 13 Cool says, no, not my Modelos. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's
true, Joe 13 Cool. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. No, E Super One says, really? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless I saw one of those alternative, fake Tommy Bogert accounts. No, this was something that I saw just before jumping on. Yeah, LAFC and Modelo are now officially partnered up, and they will be the new official.
Another L for Galaxy. Dang.
Yeah. So, guys, I don't know what that does to your Modelo love But just wanted to let you know, man. I mean, the Galaxy did miss the mark on this one. They should have been talking to a Modelo about doing the back of the jersey, but not to be. I know G's are out there wrecked about this. I know you love your Modelitos with their cheladas and stuff like that. So sorry about it. We do have a super chat to end the night here. The homie Tom says, happy to support you guys. I enjoyed tonight. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, man. Honestly, man, it's a labor of love, like we said, man. Like we love being here with you guys and love, getting together with Joe and picking his brain. And if it's your first time with us, man, like I know it's not your first time, Tom. Like we see you all up in here all the time, man. Thank you so much. But if it was your first time here with us, thank you again. If you do come back, however, we just ask that you go ahead and put a little effort in and hit that subscribe button, because for damn sure we put all the love and effort into the show so that you guys can have what you need around the Galaxy family and Galaxy news and stuff like that. So that'll be your guys' kind of like promise to us. If you guys go ahead and come back for the second show and you dug what you saw on the first show, go ahead and show us a little love and hit that subscribe. Something akin to una promesa, un compacto, something like that. Something between you and us, guys. So Cuneros,
you mean something between you
and I? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, brother, I don't know where Brother G-Cam is, but that's for you, son.
Oh, Brother G-Cam, that was for you, man. I hope you hear that and you're like, oh, they did it. Yes, we done did it with the you and I. And let's bring this one home, man. On Monday, March 2nd, we'll bring you our Charlotte match reaction alongside the great Keith Costigan. We've had him on before.
Oh, yes.
And we had a great time as well with him. I mean, he was spitting bars last time he was here too. So check out our show with him on Monday. Then on Thursday, March 5th, we'll bring you our Colorado Rapids match preview for that match happening on Saturday, March 7th. We hope to bring you one of our friends of the show back. And honestly, I'm just going to put him on the spot because I haven't even asked him yet, but hopefully he'll be here. The homie Matt Pollard, covers the Rapids incredibly well. So we hope to bring him to you guys on Thursday, March 5th. In the meantime, we hope to see you guys soon at the digs. If you guys do run into us at any point, get some stickers, get some slabs from us, and until we meet again, guys, I think there's only one thing left to say. Ananda, what do you think? Should we bring it on home?
Dale.
Dale. Okay, anyway, yeah, exactly. We're squirrely tonight. Anyway, and there is one thing left to say, but also remember, it's Ananda's birthday on Saturday. Show that man some love. That's all I gotta say. Here we go. One thing left to say. G.